What's up, awkward?
What's
Awkward,
up?
you picked a good day to come on, man.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
We've been
Yeah.
live for about 80 minutes now. We've pretty much been ranting about the police for a while, so I would love your take.
Oh.
I know we was about to talk about the fourth demand. I don't know if you remember what I was saying. I think I wanted to bring you guys on just so we can have a general police abolition talk, just because it's been a long time since we did our last video.
Mhm.
So I kind of want like our new audience to get introduced to you and your ideas. And then we can schedule to do like an official demand video. That cool with you?
So you're saying this is more informal, and then we'll do a formal one?
Yeah, like because James is gonna be on for like 3 p.m. So I decided just to invite you on, and we can just have a conversation.
Yeah.
And then I think we're gonna schedule a time to do like, if you guys don't know, because we are live right now. If you guys don't know, I'm a co-founder of 10 Demands with Awkward, and we did a few videos, and we plan on completing the whole set. We have 10 demands, and I'm actually gonna pass it to you, Awkward, so you can explain the group and your mindset behind it. Each demand is well thought out, and we're gonna have an episode that explains each one in great detail. We already did the first 3. Our next episode we're scheduling. It's been a long time since we did it. But either way, I'm glad to have Awkward on Friends and Leftists. You want to kind of introduce yourself and the idea behind the demands to get started? And I got a few things I want to ask you about because we was having fun today. But go ahead, Awkward.
Cool. Yeah. So Nick and I, and at one point it was maybe up to 10 people, but now we're like 5 core people who about a year and a half ago came together to kind of provide a framework for organizers in cities and towns across the country toward abolition. So 10 Demands for Justice, the road toward abolition, is not necessarily, if you look from 1 to 10, chronological, but without a question, it has to start with defunding the police. And when you defund the police, that's not it unto itself. It's essential to take that money, reallocate it toward alternative programs that are actually designed to keep us safe and even thrive in our own communities. The last one is end carceral punishment. So from 1 to 10, you're chipping away at this system of oppression, the white supremacist institutions of policing and imprisonment. There are a number of things that can be done and should be done overnight. There are some things that will take time. What people will see in going through this, as well as looking at real life examples like we have now from New York City and Portland of the way these alternatives actually work and succeed, is that abolition is not lawlessness. It's actually holding people accountable as human beings for the the misdeeds, the injustices that they may have caused to other human beings. And the other thing it's not overnight. You don't wake up tomorrow and there's no police and there's no prisons. We're not in a position to do that because we have generations and generations of disinformation and propaganda that we have to work to counteract. So over time, as we're defunding and implementing these alternatives and cutting things like qualified immunity, cutting things like cash bail, the argument will become more and more clear. It'll be impossible to deny that policing and imprisonment don't work except to protect the ruling elite. And the alternative works for everybody.
Okay.
Go ahead, James. I'm gonna pull up the website on 10 Demands as well. And I think another reason why we had this discussion, because before we go back to our demand series, I just want to do a big introduction of 10 Demands on the channel. I think this is a good time to do this. I think I'm gonna clip this individually eventually, but I'm gonna have the website, and we can go over the 10 Demands real quickly just so people know what it is. But James, go ahead and finish your thought while I do that.
Yeah. So awkward. Just to get you up to speed on what started this conversation. We were actually talking about an article that came out of ProPublica. In fact, I will share it again just so you can have a sense of what we were talking about. And you might have seen this on Twitter.
Yeah.
But This was basically, the title of it is Black Children Were Jailed for a Crime That Didn't Exist. Almost nothing happened to the adults in charge. And it talks about Judge Davenport, who oversees the juvenile justice system in Tennessee. Uh, she has a history of jailing children, and she says that kids must face consequences, which rarely seem to apply to her or other adults in charge. So this started the conversation that we were having for basically the last almost hour and, excuse me, hour and 15 minutes.
Well, so it's a
And
good day to have awkward on. That's exactly why.
it is a damn good day to have awkward on. And so that's what it started off with.
Yeah.
And so just off of just the title and the subtitle, what are your thoughts?
Well, I'll just put it into perspective for those who may have seen this and thought, "Oh my God, I can't believe this happened." Every time I see something like this, my heart is broken, and I'm enraged all at the same time, and yet also at the same time, I'm in no way surprised. In the past dozen years, thousands of state and local judges have broken laws and oaths, victimizing thousands of Black and brown and poor people, and 9 of 10 have kept their jobs. That is the reason why 10 Demands exists, because it's not enough to just defund police or abolish police. This entire system is corrupt. The entire system is functioning exactly as it was intended. It is a white supremacist institution that stems directly from slavery, chain gangs, and and the black codes and all of these things when slavery ended. So this makes perfect sense. Put as many Black and brown people into the system as possible. Once they're in, it's incredibly difficult to come out. Recidivism rates are incredibly high because prisons and jails and detention centers are not intended to rehabilitate. So none of this surprises me. It's way worse than just this one case, although it's really important to kind of put faces and human stories to the numbers, because it's one thing to hear, a guy who looks like me spout 1,000 this, 1,000 that, 9 out of 10 this, 9 out of 10 that. But when you read in detail a story like what's in ProPublica right now, people who may gloss over when they hear me may wake up a little bit and take the next step to do the research that we've been doing.
Just wanted to help people understand, because some people may not know the meanings of certain things. You said the recidivism rate. Just to give everybody a definition of what recidivism is, it is a tendency, the tendency of a convicted criminal to re-offend. So that's what recidivism means. And so, like, if I were watching this, I probably wouldn't have known exactly what that was until we look up. But fortunately, because of my education, because of people like yourself and Nick, I have learned that in the past. So, but I wanted other people to know what those words meant as well. So
Yeah.
thank you. Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, at the beginning of the 10 Demands song, I borrow a quote from a Black feminist radical woman who I just thought put it so eloquently that being an abolitionist requires you to unlearn. I'm not quoting directly right now, but requires you to unlearn everything you've been taught since birth about crime and punishment, about perpetrator and victim, and the amount of things that we don't know is will blow your mind. And as it relates to recidivism, people may not know, but 2/3 of people on average go back to prison. The recidivism rate on average in this country is 67%. And then just
Wow.
to blow your
Wow.
minds, the recidivism rate for convicted sex offenders is 3.5%. I only bring that up because the misconception of stranger danger that all of us have to walk around in fear of, of sexual offenders. 95% of sex offenses are committed by someone not on the registry. 90% of sex assault victims know the attacker. And like I said, only, the assumption is that they can't, those are the people, we're always asked as abolitionists, what about the rapists? Those are the people that can't be repaired or transformed through the type of justice we're, pushing for. But when in reality, the recidivism rate for the average, so to speak, crime is, ridiculously higher. And a big part of that is because there's way more people who are going in to prisons for things that we're not terrified about, such as smoking marijuana or possessing marijuana, or, not paying some kind of fine and or not keeping up with some bill that ends up putting you in behind bars. The vast majority of people that are locked up are Black and brown and poor, and the vast majority are nonviolent.
All right, thank you.
I just want to take this time to welcome to the stream my good friend. I don't know if James and Zoya are acquainted, but it'd be a good time to get acquainted. Zoya, my good friend, also co-founder of 10 Demands. Welcome to Hampton Leftists. Thank you for joining us. We are having a general discussion. We're going to schedule a time to do a formal discussion on the fourth demand, which is next. But I wanted to bring you and Awkward on, especially right now. This was a good episode because we was having a lot of police abolition discussion. So I think you guys had a lot to add to this discussion. And I was going to talk about 10 demands and your guys' theory of change on police abolition. Awkward just broke it down. But thank you for joining us, Zoya. Welcome to the show.
Hi, guys.
Hi, this is technically my first official meeting with Zoya. I have been hearing about you and the work that you've been doing, and everyone talks about how much they love you. And so I just wanted to say that it is a privilege for you to grace yourself in our presence on this stream. So I appreciate having you with us.
Oh, JB.
Same. Such a pleasure to share space with you guys. I love all of you guys and appreciate everything you do.
Thank you.
Yeah, Zoya been activist for quite a long time. So just to shift this conversation this way, I'm gonna have an introduction to Zoya. We kind of had an introduction to Awkward. I'm gonna keep it very general before we move on to the next story. Why do you decide to join 10 Demands with us? Why is this something that you're passionate about? I know you like people don't know Zoya is a long time activist. She's really been in this fight for a long time. So just so people know who you are, and then we can move on to discussion. Zoya, just give a little basic intro about how you got involved in activism and why you got so passionate about 10 Demands.
Well, I started off super young, and to be honest with you, as a teenager, I was very passionate about environmentalism and legalizing pot because it was insane to me that a plant is illegal. And that accidentally led me down the road of activism. I honestly thought that, we're just going to legalize pot really quick and I'll move on with my life. But I got involved with organizations and petitioning the city council and all of these things on such a deep level. And I ended up being involved for decades. And the fight for legalization still continues. And of course, that work exposed the racial disparities in drug enforcement. And I think that anyone that observes the type of injustices in this society cannot just stand still and stand by, because I deeply believe that until all of us are free, none of us are free in this system. So the fight really, I think, touches everything and everyone. And unfortunately, growing up in poverty, I had a lot of friends that were assaulted by police in front of me, as well as myself. and a lot of friends that were incarcerated and are still incarcerated. And I saw that people with money and privilege were able to escape the justice system. And a lot of people close to me, simply because they couldn't afford the same attorneys, ended up serving serious sentences. And that was just something that affected me personally, and I couldn't stand by. And I've been involved in many aspects of trying to change the laws in our system, which is very difficult.
Mhm.
But I am happy to continue that fight. 10 demands is something I truly believe in. Abolition, I think, is the path forward. And I want people to get educated on what that means and for us to fight for a better society.
So this year, I know some people asking for the website. Big shout out to Quaker Socialist for posting the link. And I'll toss it awkward here, and we don't have to do giant long. Cause we're gonna do a series on each individual demand. So here's the list of the 10 demands that we had calls. Well, we were discussing this for quite a long time. A lot of thought given to each one. So here's our website, 10forjustice.com/demands. Anything you want to add on here, awkward, and I'll pass it back to JB.
I mean, I would say that, I would say that given the constant feedback that we get that we're well-intentioned or our ideas are actually perfect, but our language is problematic, that we can't say defund, we certainly can't say abolish, and due to the misunderstandings of what abolition really is, I think that it's really important for anyone who's willing to investigate further and just take that first step to go beyond reading just the titles of each of the demands. Each is, as Nick said, like really thought out over quite a lot of time with a lot of different perspectives incorporated. And there's a lot of concrete actionable items under each demand that can be taken at the local and the state and even the federal level. But most importantly to listeners, again, the local aspect of this, if you click the take action button, we have a letter that you can text directly to your mayor, your governor, or your state or national representatives in Congress. And these are action items essentially that you can bring to city council meetings. So think about it that way, that, you have to start somewhere. And, as long as your efforts are, the result of your efforts will be a chipping away of the system and not something that will somehow add strength to the system, further ingrain us in the system, or put more monetary investment in the system, then you're heading toward abolition in the right direction.
Mm-hmm. Nick, you're muted.
Yeah, I was about to say, sorry. This group, it was an honor to be part of forming it, because always trying to educate people on abolition. I think, well, the ask here, what we explaining here is exactly what I try to explain to people here. Let me find this here. I think it was on the first page. Because you explained earlier that we have a road to abolition. And I said multiple times, I would say stuff like, oh, we need to defund the police, we need to defund the police. And then there's some people, and I think they have great intentions, and I love them. They always say, well, I'm not for defund the police, I think we should abolish the police. And I'm like, well, I say defund the police for a reason, because there is a path to police abolition. And I love the mission statement that we have here. 10 demands for justice envisions a new society in which prisons and police are no longer necessary and communities are equipped to provide for their own health and safety. 10 demands for justice offers a roadmap. I'm saying that's what I always tell people. And then you always have people who bad faith who don't describe the road to abolition directly. Like, oh, you were just gonna get rid of cops? Well, then what? No, we have a roadmap. And then, as Awkward was saying, if you actually look at each one of these, we go into great detail, like what actually can be done, and that was what Awkward was highlighting. But I'll pass it to Zoya. Do you have anything you want to add? And then JB can chime in as well. But make sure you guys check out the timforjustice.com, because it also is just a great resource. I like reading it just because it helps sharpen my own knowledge up as well, because I learned a lot from my friends Awkward and Zoya on this topic. Last year we were having a lot of discussion, so it's great. So I'll pass it to Zoya, and then JB. You got anything you want to add, Zoya?
Let me just say quickly, hold on. The resources page. I just want to add, because the resources page. Forget what you can learn from me. There are people who've lived it more closely, who are affected more drastically by it, who've been doing this longer. We have dozens of articles, websites, videos. I mean, this is a massive resource library. So that's just something else to keep in mind as well. Sorry, Zoya.
Yeah. So on the topic of abolition, I think there's just a lot of misunderstanding. And to your point, the main starting place for all of us is education, and 10 Demands tries to do that, and we put a lot into research, and we're always adding on and evolving our research, and we're happy to provide resources. But I think first we have to start at a place which I listen to a lot of Awkward's interviews, and he always points out the ineffectiveness of the system we have now, the ineffectiveness of police. So once we understand that what we have isn't working, we can start to discuss what can take its place and be more effective. So for one, we have to accept our futility as a species to prevent all crime. There's no utopia anywhere without rape and murder, because that's always thrown out in our faces, right? What are you going to do with the rapists and murderers? And while that might be shocking and unfortunate, at least it allows us to begin an honest conversation about which institutions actually prevent crime. Without fail, every study demonstrates a direct correlation between increased social services and decreased crime. The more safety nets and enrichment programs the government provides, the less crime you see in a community. In reality, police don't stop crime. And punitive justice results in shattering communities while draining resources for cages instead of schools and hospitals. It also does nothing for the victim of the crime. Restorative justice, which abolition is centered on, is about healing for the victim, the perpetrator, and community. Abolition is a concept centered on mutual cooperation over competition. When people compete, that means someone always loses, and the losses are unspeakable in the game of life. We need to understand that a hungry or houseless person should not exist in a wealthy society that throws out billions in food and is full of empty dwellings. That is a sociopathic design. It isn't just, it isn't simply immoral, it is irrational and inefficient. And for what? So that the few can retain power over the many. Modern monarchies exist, except these nobles fly space rockets instead of wearing crowns. Defunding the police and carceral state is about funding community. Fund society. That is our battle cry. It's not so much defund the police as fund us. It is a much tougher slogan to attack or fearmonger. The government exists to serve the people, not keep them in line to serve the 1%. That is an oligarchy. And I stumbled upon something in early 20th century. There's an author, Robert Michaels, that developed a theory that democracies, like all large organizations, have a tendency to turn into oligarchies. In his Iron Law of Oligarchy, he suggests that the necessary division of labor in large organizations leads to the establishment of a ruling class mostly concerned with protecting their own power. We are living that reality. And how do you convince a person working 3 jobs just to pay for shelter that these conditions are acceptable? Fear. It's simply fear. Our corporate-owned mainstream media serves to generate fear, which ferments hate. That hate empowers modern feudalism. Mm-hmm. So a key component of abolition is the recognition that the wealth our labor generates should be reinvested in us. So
Yeah.
we don't criminalize poverty, but eradicate it. It is, in fact, artificially created. And a tiny fraction of our war budget can feed and house everyone.
Yeah.
When
True.
you build a society centered on the needs of all its people, there's almost no murder or rape or theft organically. These crimes are symptoms of a broken system, not causes that should dictate policy. It's not a theory because we can observe this in other countries.
Mhm.
Happy people don't commit crime. When you know and care about your neighbors, you generate good quality of life for everyone. Americans need to free their thinking from toxic individualism and realize our strength is in community. Stop being mindless consumers and experience solidarity that serves everyone. On a personal note, I lived in the USSR. Housing, healthcare, education, transportation, and all basic human needs were provided. It is possible, and countries with far less wealth and resources achieve it. We have to stop thinking that shelter, medicine, and food must be earned. We have the resources to make them guaranteed. But how will they force us to serve them if our needs are met? That is why we are denied these basics, and disenfranchised workers are at war with each other instead of those exploiting them.
Boom.
This is why I've been waiting to get Zoya back on
Zoya.
Hampton with this.
That was your best.
All right, guys. I'm good. You guys go ahead, take over the show. Bye-bye.
That was the best yet. Well done.
Yeah, this is exactly why I told you guys Zoya the real deal, and
so important too, because of she's connecting it to everything else. You know,
Yes.
there's a reason that abolitionists talk so much about mutual aid. These things are not all separate.
Thank you.
That was powerful.
Look, I'm a
thanks
bit real.
for JB for allowing us to do this on this show.
No. Thank you. I am so goddamn happy for y'all. Y'all just came over here and just blessed my stream, and I just thank you.
No, man.
Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, it's about time you had us on, right?
About goddamn time. I'm late.
This was a long time coming. We had we have the man's episode for number 3 on Hampton Leftists. That was like 3 months ago or something like that. It was a long time ago. So I
we're busy.
It's hard to get this thing scheduled. That's exactly why I wanted to have the conversation today, because it was 3 months ago, and I want to introduce our audience to Awkward and Zoya, who really about, and like I go on countless police. Like I honestly don't like Awkward is probably the only person who beats me. But I said multiple times Awkward beats me probably. I said there's probably no other leftist content creator that did more like segments on our police state. But Awkward probably got me beat. Awkward got me beat. Because that's literally his channel. But
hold up. I gotta address this. What we're saying is that we should revamp a system where it actually treats people in a way where we promote restorative justice. Most people are criminals, or quote unquote criminals, because the system has screwed them over so much that they have no choice but to commit crime. And that's what it is. Most crimes are done because they're crimes of opportunity and desperation.
The
and the
first
reason
problem,
why.
Sorry.
Okay.
No.
I want to get Awkward and Zoya to respond to this as well, because I know Awkward is like chomping at the bit.
I shouldn't. Right, I am, and that's the problem. I should not have cut you off, JB. Go ahead.
No. James and then Awkward can chime in.
And so the thing is that if you take away the desperation and the lack of opportunity, then the criminals will diminish, and you won't. So what we're doing is we're tackling the root causes of crime, not the crime itself. So if you attack the root causes of crime, we're done attacking the sneeze. We're going after the virus. See, and that's exactly what we're trying to do.
Right, and we're not attacking the sneezer, and we're not using the term criminal. That's the first mistake. Okay, so the Angela Davis talks about it. The number of people who commit crimes in this country or who have broken the law is vastly larger than the number of people who are called or deemed criminal. the people who are considered criminals in this country are people from communities that have been criminalized. They're the same communities that have the least funding, the worst education, the worst hospitals, all the stuff that JB is talking about. There are people in prison for stealing a piece of pizza, for jaywalking. If these are the criminals you're so terrified about, then I don't know what to tell you. But what abolition is about is not just letting people go free and not holding them accountable. It's actually holding them accountable. Disappearing people in a cage and forgetting all about them and the victims of whatever their crime was is not the solution. You need to actually fix the problem itself and why the problem happened. It is a one person harms another person. Why did that person harm that other person? Most perpetrators have been victims themselves. And the best way to heal the whole community that has been impacted is to transform everyone who's involved. And the best way to do that is through mediation, rehabilitation, community service, education. These are the types of responses to crimes that may still happen in an abolitionist society. Because again, very much like the cops today who solve 3% of all major crimes and are meanwhile responsible for a third of all stranger murders, abolition is not going to completely end all crime. Someone else said it's not going to create a utopia. That's not something that's conceivable. That's not what abolitionists are talking about. Abolition is a way of looking at the causes of crime and looking at humans as human beings and not just people doing bad things onto other people because they're inherently, innately bad.
Well said, Awkward. And you see how it's all too easy to just debunk these propaganda talking points that just people are repeating and they repeat over and over again. And there's such an important point that you make, and I make this all the time, and I would love to see what Zoya had to say on this topic. I want people to define crime and violence. And as an abolitionist, we put an onus on the giant police state defenders because we are clear on what we think is violence. You guys are criminalizing people for smoking a plant. The cops are 16 times more likely to shoot someone who having a mental health crisis. So they are criminalizing being human. You have our government that is literally killing and illegally launching wars overseas that kill about over 2 million dead Iraqis because of our policies. We literally have federal agents that are sexually assaulting migrants from other countries that are fleeing the violence of our state. Mm-hmm. So and once again, I say this all the time, but our police and our government use tear gas, which is a war crime, on its own citizens. I know I say that over and over, but that bears repeating over and over again. There were women who had miscarriages last summer because they was pregnant and the police tear gas them. So tell me who's the violent one? Who's the violent one? What's the crime?
Yeah, and they weren't even all at the protest. Half of these people had tear gas floating into their windows because there were protests near their homes. I mean, in Minneapolis, you saw federal agents shooting paint canisters at people sitting on their own porches. I mean, they're not even restricting it to protesters. I mean, we know that all of the protections for the press more members of the press died in 2020 or murdered in 2020 than ever before. Yeah.
I have something else to show you guys. I'll pull it up. I showed this earlier before. Go ahead, JB.
Before you get that, I would like to get Zoya's response to that comment as well.
Yeah. Go ahead, Zoya.
I have more to add later. Go ahead and show the.
Okay.
So I'll be quick. Mine's really quick here. I want to show you. I shared this earlier in the stream. Awkward and Zoya wasn't here, and they say, so you think all criminals should go free? Is that what you're saying? This is our system. Billionaire who raped his 3-year-old daughter avoids prison time. While a poor black guy in Mississippi who had his phone in jail because the prison guards forgot to take it from him. He gets 12 years in prison, but the billionaire who raped the 3-year-old is out of prison. Oh, you're gonna let the criminals go free? We already do it. We already do it based on class. This is why it's easy to debunk the talking points of people who are for giant police budgets and they are pro-police because they are deeply unserious people. Deeply unserious. We have white-collar criminals that is stealing money from the working class. We have the ruling class that is running sex crime operations. And you worry about small-time petty theft getting away? They already get away. The billionaire class already get away with their crimes. So what are you talking about, Todd? The reality that you built in your head in which we actually deal with criminals, it doesn't exist. It is a system that is targeted towards the working class, poor black and brown indigenous, disenfranchised communities. That's the system you're defending. Zoya? Sorry, I was going to say, I can get...
No, and just wanted to also add to that. I think if I'm correct me if I'm wrong, but there's over 250,000 untested rape kits that are in the police departments in the United States. How many of those rape kits have the DNA of police officers in them?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and then how about the fact that there's 250,000 rape kits that have not been tested because the cops don't do their job? How about the fact that there's 35 states in this country where cops are allowed to rape people in their custody legally? How about the fact that 40% of cops admit to abusing their families?
That's the criminals getting away though, Todd, aren't they?
Yeah, the cops. They're getting away every day.
The politicians.
Yeah.
Look at Matt Gaetz.
Right. And keep this in mind too. The corporations, the phone companies, the food service companies, the corporations that make killings not just off of private prisons, but off of state, federal institutions, detention centers, are the same corporations that are donating to your favorite politicians and who are donating to the police foundations. And these police foundations and police unions are donating to these politicians as well. So they are all in bed together. It's the way that they're able, corporations and jails that are run by cities or counties are able to collude and make it so that all of a sudden there's no visitation. The only way you can communicate with family members is by phone. And whoops, we're going to make the phone calls $10 a minute because you're poor and that's why you're locked up. We want you to suffer more. Figure out a way to communicate with your family members. And oh, by the way, we're going to record those calls and start tracking the people you're communicating with on the outside.
I want to get Zoya's thought because I know she wanted to pop off. But there's a great comment by James before I pass it. We have more black people in jail right now than South Africa did during the entirety of apartheid. This is why I love my community. You guys been. I'm sorry I didn't highlight all of them, but I've just been reading the comments. You guys have been dropping some great comments in here, so keep it coming. Great comment by James with Zoya. What's your thoughts? You have anything you want to say regarding the topic? And
I wanted to play a clip, just the audio of it, from this documentary. The documentary.
I think you can share, right?
I don't know how I would do that because it's literally.
Or you can post it in the chat, in the private chat, and I can share it if you don't know how to do it.
I'll just play the audio because I have it paused on that place. We'll be better prepared last time. Sorry, guys.
All right, that's fine.
But it's from the documentary 13th on Netflix, which I highly recommend for everyone to watch to understand the history of why we are where we are. This relates to, drug enforcement and how it even came about. So hopefully you guys can hear this.
There's this outcry for law and order, and Nixon becomes a person who articulates that perfectly.
There can be no progress in America without respect for law.
Many people felt like we were losing control.
We need total war in the United States against the evils that we see in our cities.
Federal spending for local law enforcement will double. Time is running out for the merchants of crime and corruption in American society. The wave of crime is not going to be the wave of the future in the United States of America. We must wage what I have called total war against public enemy number one in the United States, the problem of dangerous drugs.
A war on drugs. And that utterance gave birth to this era where we've decided to deal with drug addiction and drug dependency as a crime issue rather than a health issue. Hundreds of thousands of people were being sent to jails and prisons for simple possession of marijuana, for low-level offenses.
Hang on, it gets better.
America's public enemy number one in the United States is drug abuse. In order to fight and defeat this enemy, it is necessary to wage a new all-out offensive. This call for law and order becomes integral to something that comes to be known as the Southern Strategy. Nixon begins to recruit Southern whites, formerly staunch Democrats, into the Republican fold.
Persuading poor and working class whites to join the Republican Party in droves.
By speaking to, in subtle and non-racist terms,
Thinly veiled racial appeals.
talking about crime, by talking about law and order, or the chaos of our urban cities unleashed by the civil rights movement.
We have launched an all-out offensive against crime, against narcotics, against permissiveness in our country.
The rhetoric of get tough and law and order was part and parcel of the backlash of the civil rights movement.
Nixon administration official has admitted that the war on drugs is all about throwing black people in jail. He said, quote, the Nixon campaign in 1968 and the Nixon White House after that had two enemies, the anti-war left and black people. You understand what I'm saying? We knew we couldn't make it illegal to be either against the war or black. But by getting the public to associate the hippies with marijuana and blacks with heroin, and then criminalizing both heavily, we could disrupt those communities.
You guys heard that?
Yeah, the last part is the big.
That's the system that the people that have Black Lives Matter in their profile defends.
And that's John L. Lichman, Nixon's advisor, speaking. There's one more quote from him I want to play. It's short.
We could arrest their leaders, raid their homes, break up their meetings, and vilify them night after night on the evening news. Did we know we were lying about the drugs? Of course we did.
Yep. He was counsel assistant to the president for domestic affairs.
So when I tell you guys that the Democratic Party, and also by extension the Republican Party, is the party of white supremacy, this is what I'm talking about. How many people who have Black Lives Matter in their profile picture essentially defend and still uphold the policies of Richard Nixon and Ronald Reagan? Joe Biden, by the way, during Ronald Reagan's presidency, played a giant role in pushing his administration to the right on escalating the war on drugs.
Yeah. And
this is the reality. Go ahead, Awkward.
No, I was just going to say, like, this is something that I think it's a really good thing that you do a lot on your show, is tie the stuff that I focus a lot on with the larger international picture. So I was just going to do that in this particular case. In the US, every 25 seconds, someone is arrested for drug possession, and 1 in 5 people who are locked up are there for drug charges. The DA alone costs $6,500 per minute. And we're going to pay $3.5 billion in 2021 this year, just to fund that one agency, with, of course, Black people being 600 times more likely to be incarcerated for these things. But the war on drugs has this international effect as well. The U.S. spends $47 billion per year enforcing drug laws, and has spent more than $1 trillion since the war has started, with millions of people across the world dying as a result of this war on drugs that is designed just to put certain people in prison in this country.
JB, you muted.
The
My apologies.
the system is designed to serve the status quo, and the status quo means poverty and war. Capitalism in America is a predatory pyramid scheme, and racism is just a crucial mechanism used to divide the working class so we never unite against the elites dancing on our backs. If you pay attention to that clip, this war on drugs started because of the civil rights movement, because of the protests. They were they couldn't imprison peaceful protesters. They had nothing to imprison them on. So in order to attack the movement and attack these people, they had to criminalize them in some sort of way. And that is the only reason we have these drug policies. And it is very much about depriving movements of momentum and fighting for things that we are absolutely entitled to from our government.
I was gonna also bring up, and maybe this is a naive question, but I apologize if it is a naive question, but wouldn't it be just cheaper to treat people for drug addiction than to lock them up?
Yes.
Yeah. Prison costs more than college as well. To incarcerate someone for a year costs more money than to send them to an Ivy League school. But there's, it's like maybe you spend a little up front, but they know the kickbacks on the, on the back end, all the money that's exchanging hands with the corporate, tie-ins, and, plus the fact that, when you fill prisons with, let's say in upstate New York with Black and brown people from downstate, from the city, the census is counting all of those people in the state or in the part of the state where they're incarcerated, and not in the parts of the city where they have been taken from, where they actually could use the funding from all the people having been removed. There's so many different ways that they're profiting, and with the underlying goal, I think, of disappearing people, that it doesn't matter what that cost really is. Even, you know what I mean? Like that's like a like a loss they're willing to take because of all the other gains in other places.
Yeah, and this is why I like to tie all the issues together, because not only do you have situations like these where you save money if you actually have a progressive criminal justice system, it also the kind of same for healthcare, right? Where if you gave people Medicare for all, that will actually save more money over having a private healthcare system or a public option system. So even though we explain this stuff to conservative and shit libs, they still prefer the more expensive option. So once again, this is a philosophical debate. What is this about? And this is the capitalists who are willing, and this is my thoughts. The capitalists are hardcore against abolition, even though we would save money through our society. They're against Medicare for all, even though studies show that it will save money. They're against canceling student loan debt, even though studies show that will save money, that will actually stimulate the economy. It's because the capitalists, and this is the harmful truth of the matter, they are willing to pay more for the inequality. So the two-tier society, the two-tier criminal justice system, the two-tiered healthcare system, the multi-layered healthcare system that we have, because once you get a public option, that's a two-tier system, because you had the public pool and then you had the rich private pool, which is better insurance. That's why the public option sucks. But studies show the public option in the current healthcare system costs more, but they are for the system that costs more because they are essentially paying for the inequality. They want to say they have gold-plated healthcare. The people who defend the giant police budgets, like Will Smith and Morgan Freeman, like we covered earlier, they know that the police are going to protect their property. They know that the criminal justice system is a two-tier system, one for the rich, one for the poor. So that's why they defend it. So they know that what we are talking about saves money. They know it will save money to actually give the homeless person a house instead of keeping them on the street and actually paying a ton of money for anti-homeless architecture. They know that saves more money. They were spending like $30,000 per can in San Francisco, but they pay for inequality. That's what I wanted to add to this. Zoya, James, Awkward, anyone want to jump in?
Well, America is blessed with an abundance of ignorance, with a surplus of individualism, and it is killing all of us.
Say that again. Say that again. That was fire.
America's blessed with an abundance of ignorance, with a surplus of individualism, and it is killing us all.
I like that.
These policies make sense financially. I, in my work, have often had to convince conservatives or Republicans to support policy, and I would just leave politics out of it altogether. I would always tell them, my father told me never to discuss religion or politics, and then just move on to discussing the policies and why they make sense. You can appeal to even the most selfish mindset because these policies make sense. And like you said, the only reason to fund them is to fund inequality.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why roles are so important. During the civil rights era, I've talked about this a lot. The movement wouldn't have been successful. MLK wouldn't have been successful to the degree that he was, and to the degree that the civil rights movement was successful in passing certain laws. That was out of fear of the alternative. If we don't do the bare minimum that this Christian pacifist that we don't truly understand is a lot more radical, is saying, we're going to have to face the Black Panthers and Malcolm X. So, what MLK needed was this more radical side to push people toward him. And so there are people like me who spend a lot of time talking about what people deem to be this radical concept of abolition. And then you have people who support abolition and can speak about it in terms like Zoya and Nick are talking about, which is, this will save you money. And when I interviewed Dylan Rodriguez a couple weeks ago, he talked about why don't we just say our goal is for there to be 0 killings of Black people by cops? Who can, like, if you can't say that if you say you don't support that, you're a bad person. No one's going to say you're a bad person if you say I don't support abolition. But let's talk about what it really means. Dude, cops have to kill 0 people, 0. And until they've and then that's what we're fighting for it to be 0. And people are going to realize that the only way for it to be 0 is for there to be 0 cops. So I can talk about abolition. Someone else can say, we talk about it in that way. Don't tell me you don't want there to be 0 innocent people being killed, and so politicians can talk about funding our communities. Don't say defund. You don't have to. I'll say it for you. I'll be the person who's scaring the shit out of you. The Black Bloc will be on the streets lighting cop cars on fire. They'll scare the shit out of you. So if you don't want to deal face to face with me or them, then sit down with us before the city council meeting, or open it up to the public, because there's going to be people who will talk a lot less violently that maybe you'll be interested in listening to, because the alternative is scarier.
Regarding Martin Luther King, they try to create this image of him that is acceptable and digestible for the system. But in reality, he was really big in the labor movement. Yes. Where was he assassinated? He was down in Tennessee in order to support striking sanitation workers. Yep. Mm-hmm. He was there on a labor movement issue. And not only that, but I don't know if you guys know this, but it's even in Wikipedia. I'm just going to briefly read it. The King family and others believe that the assassination was the result of a conspiracy involving the U.S. government, the mafia, and Memphis police, as alleged by Lloyd Jowers in 1993. They believe that Ray was a scapegoat. In 1999, the family filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Jowers for the sum of $10 million. During closing arguments, their attorney asked the jury to award damages of $100 to make the point that it was not about the money. During the trial, both sides presented evidence alleging a government conspiracy. The accused government agencies could not defend themselves or respond because they were not named as defendants. Based on the evidence, the jury concluded that Jowers and others were part of a conspiracy to kill King and awarded the family $100. It always leads back to the government having nefarious reasons.
Yes, without a doubt. But he wasn't standing there, looking like a Muslim with a rifle. That was terrifying.
Yeah. And so we get to this point now where, a lot of leaders who are trying to dismantle the system that keeps us oppressed. And so they see us as a threat. And the threat is not because of their safety. The threat is never about their safety. The threat is about them just not having more than the average person. That's the threat. And that is the silliest, stupidest fear I have ever heard. That you're afraid of being just like everybody else. That is what this is all about. That you can have this power over people and dictate what they do simply because you feel like you should just have more than they do. Ultimately, I think this is what it's all about. And so, in order to keep that system in place, they exploit you. Then they have people to protect you, protect themselves from you, from actually correcting the system of exploitation into making it into a system of justice. And so, it's a system of injustice to keep us in line for them so that they can hold on to that power to be above everyone else. And that's that's the core of what I see.
Yeah. And our elected officials continue to show themselves as being those people right in line with the CEOs and whoever else who wants to maintain that separation and power and comfortability and all of that. But I say that I bring that up only because I want to say that this does not mean, as much as we need to focus on our own communities, and I do believe mutual aid, and dual power, like these are primary focus, like number one, so communities can take care of themselves. If we do end up in a position where we are forced to general strike, it will be because we are actually prepared to do so, and the mutual aid infrastructure is what we need for that. But I don't believe that this means that electoralism is completely dead, because laws do need to change, and the only way to change those laws are for the people in power to make those changes. And so while I think focusing on state and federal politicians is not my area, it's not what I'm going to do, and I don't want to dissuade people from any type of organizing, but I really think local politicians is where you can make this difference. You can change the lives of thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people in your city by changing the makeup of your city council. If your city council is comprised of people who want to defund the police department will be defunded. And yes, my cat's always making.
I'm sorry, my bad, awkward. I saw the cat, and I think the cat.
I know you're not over the comments. What I'm saying. This guy. Look at that. Can't get cuter than that.
Yeah, so the cat kind of hijacked there, but awkward always bringing.
Just try to focus on what I'm saying, not what I'm.
Yeah, because that CJ and Rome, they adore cats. They be going nuts right now.
Oh yeah.
Oh, they're huge cat lovers. Them two. Oh, especially Rome. Rome eyes turn into literal hearts when he sees cats.
We are very pro cat here at Hampton Leftists, I think.
We are pro cat. I'm pro dog. I'm pro dog too, but we're also pro cat.
That's very nice and very, non-misogynistic of you.
One One thing I'll say to bring this home is everything that we covered on this episode, everything that we discussed. I mean, we even had a quick segment where we was talking about where we addressed a concern of someone who is caught in the police state propaganda. I hope everyone who watched this realized how easy their talking points are to disprove. And as I was saying earlier, me and Awkward probably put the most content out there debunking police state propaganda out there. And when you see a massive bipartisan push with I think it won like 9-0. We had the Democrats team up with Tommy Tuberville to punish local governments because they want to defund the police. When that story hit, they framed it as a big loss to the defund the police movement. But I want to address and bring up the fact that this wouldn't happen if we didn't have massive momentum. I covered the massive flips that we had compared to how unpopular defund the police was last year compared to now. So what Awkward and what we were doing at 10 Demands and other police abolition groups and activists who are continuing to spread the word is having a profound effect. Like what other policy, including Medicare for all, including $15 minimum wage, including weed, including gay marriage. Think of a single policy that has shifted to like plus 30 in 1 year, like defund the police has done. It's insane. So that's why I want to continue to promote this idea. That's why you're gonna see Awkward and Zoya back on the channel because we're gonna continue the 10 Demand series. And I appreciate you guys coming on all that stuff. And that's why we're gonna continue having these conversations.
I love Fred Hampton left. You guys know that. I appreciate you having us on today. And yeah, definitely stay tuned because like some of these videos are gonna be hardcore. Like to me, when we talk about ending strategic counter-protest violence, we talk reparations, the war on drugs, freeing political prisoners, closing local jails, abolishing ICE, like there's some serious videos on the way.
Also, I'll give you guys a chance to get a last word. I'm gonna pass it to Zoya and Awkward as well. Any last thoughts? And also, we can plug the website, 10 Demands website again, and where they can find you guys. Because once again, if you guys can see our old videos, I think you guys have it on the 10 Demand YouTube channel as well. But anyway, I'll pass it to you guys for last words and so they can find you guys.
I see someone in comments was asking Zoya website. I'm part of 10 Demands, 10forjustice.com. That is the website to go to. I don't ever want to take the spotlight. I want to center the movement. And another thing I just want to throw out there to wrap all of this up, I think that all of these issues are interrelated and we should always connect them. And just something to think about. Bernie was praised during the primary, and you see other politicians gain praise where they can get bipartisan support around something. So it is perfectly acceptable. Even Anna Kasparian recently debated Ben Shapiro. It is perfectly acceptable for certain privileged people to reach across the aisle and talk to people who they disagree with. It is even celebrated. But when us working class people try to talk to people that we may disagree with, it is suddenly vilified into this ridiculous red-brown alliance rhetoric and other things. That needs to stop. That is bad faith. There is nothing wrong with educating people you disagree with. That is how we move ourselves forward. And people who are trying to attack us, who are coming here in good faith, are the bad faith actors.
That is well said. That's exactly the message that we wanted to get out. That was Zoya and Awkward, and obviously I help co-fund 10 Demands as well. This is why they fit exactly in with Fred Hampton Leftists. Awkward last word, and then JB obviously can chime in after that, and we tell you guys what we have coming up. But Awkward, anything you want to end with, any last thing you want to promote or anything?
Just to add to what Zoya said, just my congratulations to you guys, my respect to you guys, my admiration for being able to move through the like internal strife that you guys had like last week or the week before or whatever it was. you know, I think, you know, the way that you guys eventually chose to kind of hash out the issue and everyone speak to each other. It sucked that all of this had to happen publicly, but I think because it did, what you guys ended up doing was demonstrating the way like transformative justice can work. You know, I was right there with Afeni in the beginning when she was saying like, this is not transformative justice. Like this was the way things happened with Compton J. Like this is not the way it should have been done. And you guys like, you heard that, you completely switched it up. Like, you know, I just think you guys have a really powerful platform and a lot of people rely on you. And there's just not enough powerful Black men and women, or individuals, I should say, taking gender out of this, who do such important work and have such strong, powerful, educated and voices. Like, it's just, I'm really glad that it turned out the way it did. And thank you for like, you know, demonstrating that, like teaching the rest of us like how it can be done.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that, Awkward. I mean, we always 100% clear here that we are just activists with a YouTube channel. And at the end of the day, we solved all that in a day. I mean, a lot of people made a lot of emotional, there was a lot of emotions. I mean, we're all human. But we decided to take that moment, and people will wonder why. Like, we came out with a few videos because since it did go public, we figured like let's take this moment and make it a learning lesson for everyone involved. And
Exactly.
I think that's what it was. And at the end of the day, we got solved in one day because we knew we were family and we loved each other. I said on the other YouTube channel, I've been in fights with like relatives, brothers and sisters, where we get heated, shit goes south, and then when the next day we like, damn, we talked that through. It was rough, but we love you, and that's how it was at Hampton Leftists. And now I said before, I really do believe this. We are stronger now, and we learned like legitimately. Like, the people that put bad faith motivations on us, which is unfortunate. But I'm telling you, we legitimately learned from not only that experience, but every single negative experience that you guys have not seen. Like, that was the one you guys seen. But you guys don't know.
Hey.
The yelling matches between me, CJ, Rome, all of us have been intense. This is the one that leaked, but we all get stronger, and we appreciate you saying that, Awkward, and we appreciate everyone who did show grace. And that's why me and CJ came up with like, guys, show grace to the people who did make mistakes, and that's why I got love for everyone and for Hampton Leftists, even the people who disagree with me on my vote there, because I have nothing but love and grace for our brothers and sisters, and that's what we have to have for each other as a community. You guys see there are a lot of people that just focus on they want to be the most morally righteous leftists in the room. They want to cancel everyone. That is not how you coalition build, and that's how we lose. We got to allow grace. We got to allow people to grow and change, and that's why earlier in the stream, JB addressed something that a lot of people was upset with him about. You guys can rewind. You can check out the beginning of the video if you're watching the replay. But he addressed some comments that he made regarding the Dave Chappelle controversy, and that we did that because we want everyone to know. I'll let JB speak on this, but our thing, we want people to grow and change, and that's what we believe, and we want to have a healing community here. But Zoya, JB, anything you guys want to add to that? I know we went pretty long on that, but I think that I appreciate you saying that, Awkward.
I really appreciate you guys, and I think it's beautiful the way the entire process unfolded. And we've had our share of disagreements at 10 Demands too.
Yeah.
You're all individuals. There's supposed to be healthy debate, and eventually you come together because the cause is the priority. And I have enormous love and respect for everybody in Fred Hampton Leftists. I think you guys are incredible people, and that everything that you're doing is just going to help educate and demonstrate how abolition can work. And I just really appreciate everything that you guys do.
Yeah, much love to you, Zoya. You know how I feel about y'all. I love y'all. But thank you for everything, JB. Sorry, thank you for giving us a platform to do this on. But it was a good conversation. But JB, anything you want to say and plug before we wrap up or anything?
Yeah. So thank you guys for the kind words. Thank you for being examples of restorative justice, because that's something that we look towards having, and you all are just prime examples of how we should be and how we should operate. And I learned so much from all of you. So as far as anything that was said here, go to 10 demands. Read up on it. If you have doubts, you have resources, and these three beautiful people before you. You can ask them questions. You can pick their brains. And the thing is that ultimately, the site is called 10 Demands for Justice, right? So that's what we're aiming towards. And I think this entire stream is basically geared towards restorative justice, whether you may have committed a transgression or you're forgiving a transgression. See? And so, and we all get to the point where we realize that we all make mistakes. We're all imperfect. And, you know, one of the things that I think is integral to 10 Demands is we're trying to get rid of a system that causes people to have to choose transgression because that system is nothing but degrades us and it tears us down and it tears us apart. Just imagine if people actually had the material needs met, imagine how much better people's mental health would be. Imagine how many people would feel, and being in community with each other. How many more cookouts would happen? My God. I'm sorry, I'm hungry. Let's be real, I'm hungry. But just imagine the camaraderie that we would have with one another. Imagine the community that we would have with one another. So just even though we're talking about all this stuff that happens, on a daily basis and about how horrible it is, let's also focus on the possibilities, on the positive future if we all come together and fight for this. So it's as good as done if we push for it. That's
And
what it's about.
it starts today. You could do it in your community. It's as simple as knowing your neighbors.
Yeah.
Like mutual aid can happen at any level, and it can be just as simple as creating that connection so that if you need help or they need help, you can call each other and not some cop from another community who's going to come in guns blazing.
Exactly.
Yeah, and also, I saw some people asking. I'm a cut. Sorry, it's been a long stream. I'm gonna cut this part eventually. I'm gonna release the 10 Demand video individually, and I'll put all the I might edit the stream too. I'll put the 10 Demand website, Awkward, and Zoya Twitter in the description.
Cool.
So I'll probably release that video maybe tomorrow for all you guys are watching. And I do appreciate everyone watching. Hopefully you guys enjoy this. Go to FredHamptonLeftist.com if you guys want to show any support, because we talking about mutual aid, we talking about organizations. I tell you guys, Fred Hampton Leftist is going to be a YouTube channel you guys never seen before. As we grow, we'll have more mutual aid systems running, like Tour for the Poor. Like imagine us at 100K subscribers. Like we're not gonna be people that are just comfortable in the air condition like some other like popular like networks. We're gonna be in the streets, and as we grow and as we get the ability to travel, we're gonna be doing on the ground reporting. That's something I really want to do. So like we close to 11. We're so close to 11K subscribers. So if you guys want to share it to a friend, that's the only way we grow. And if you think this conversation was important, you don't even have to share it to a leftist. You can share it to a shit lib. I promise you, we can flip people. Like I promise you, share it to a conservative, shit lib, someone who apolitical, and we can plant some ideas in their head. So that's the only way we can grow is through people power. That's the only way we have got to where we at right now, because we have homies, we have comrades that were sharing our stream. So I hope you guys would do that. I will cut this clip, this interview separately, so you guys can tune in for that for people watching. Any last words? Sorry, we went a little long, but anything else, JB? We got a lot of good content out there stuff. But anything, JB?
Yeah. So I will be trying to start also doing the JB Font show again on my channel, because we need to branch out. And any of you who are also thinking about starting a channel, start it. Just don't think about it. Just start it. You guys got a decent internet
We
connection and a
need
webcam?
counters to
Start it.
corporate media. We need counters to corporate media. And
We
that-
need y'all to come into this space too.
there are a lot of people who are like anti-podcaster, and I don't agree. I honestly just don't agree. Like people are like, oh, we shouldn't have all these like. How else are we going to counter the corporate media narrative? The corporate media kills our movements. We need a counter. That's why I am pro. That's why I started the show. I am pro podcast. I always will be, because if the people who say, oh, we shouldn't have podcasts, you are deeply unfair. We need a counter to the corporate media. So start your podcast, start your YouTube channel. We want to platform anyone who's anti-establishment, who want to promote mutual aid. So anyway, sorry, JB, but I want to piggyback on that, because I hear that sentiment a lot on the left. No, we need corporate media counters, and that's another way we can do it. And Awkward has a great YouTube channel, great podcast he does that is all about police abolition. And if we don't have podcasts like Awkward, how are we going to counter the propaganda? That's why. Anyway, I just want to add that, because I think that like anti-podcast rhetoric is hurtful, and I think we need to counter that. So anyway, JB, thank you for hosting this. It was a good stream. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. If that's all going to be for today, be sure to catch us up on. I think, are you doing something Tuesday, Nick?
Yeah, we have International Leftist Coalition panel. I saw Rob will join us, and also we're gonna have Jackson Hinkle. He's gonna join us for the first time on the International Leftist Coalition panel. We do that Tuesday nights because my friend Peter Beating and Cream Protesters is in China, so it's a late American stream here. But it's an international movement. Like, once again, we got police abolition movements we're building, but we're also building international movements. So that's Tuesday, and we plan something for Monday. Anything, James?
Okay. Also, be sure to catch Straight Outta Politics on Wednesday with CJ, and we will also be having the roundtable at 5:30. Remember, we're now at 5:30 on Thursdays, and be sure to watch Sabby Sabs on Friday evenings. Am I forgetting any? Oh, and Facts and Fire on Saturdays with Afeni. And catch Rome when you can. Thank you guys so much for joining me on the JB show. This was a little bit of an extended edition, but I want to wish you all very well, and I'll see y'all in the next one.
All right.
Thanks. Bye.